Okay, we want to replace the CV joint, the half shaft, on this Honda Accord. So first thing we've got to do, we've got to take off this axle nut. Now it's very, very, very tight, and it's staked. So you have to bend that out. And the way I did that, I didn't really bend it out, I kind of chewed it up, but I used a hammer and a screwdriver to bend that tab out. Okay, once you get to that point, now this is so tight, I put pipes and such on before and I still couldn't break it loose, but I used a simple oxygen propane torch, probably about 2 minutes on that, torched that nut, got it hot, and this is a 36 millimeter nut. I've already loosened it, and I used this pipe, and it just broke free easily. It's worth using a torch. It can be almost impossible to get that nut off. So, and then after I take the nut off, I'm going to take the tire off, and then we'll be ready for the next step. Okay, you're going to need, there's a bolt that goes in here. This is the shock absorber fork, and we got to take this bolt out right here, and I've already done it, and it uses a 19 millimeter socket. This is what I used right there, and a ratchet, and it comes out without much problem. And then what is harder is this ball joint here. It goes through the lower control arm, and okay, the ball joint goes through this lower control arm. It's got a nut on it too. Take that off. It's got a cotter pin. You need to take that off first. And the problem is, then you've got to raise this steering knuckle up, and getting you have to separate the ball joint from the lower control arm. And I've done that here, and I've tried a couple of ways. The shop manual says use a 2-jaw puller, like you see right there. Doesn't work. Tapping on that stud doesn't work. There was a thing on YouTube where a guy jacks it up and releases the jack suddenly. That doesn't work. What does work, and works well, is a wedge. Okay, a wedge separator. You put that right around the ball joint, above it, above the lower control arm there, and just pound on it, and it'll come up. And once you've got it up, we're going to want to swing this out of the way. And you can do that, and this axle will come out. It'll give us clearance. That's what you need to do. You need to be able to swing the steering knuckle, this is called, out of the way. The tie rod bolt back here, you don't need to, that's another ball joint. You don't need to take that out. I've seen some videos where they show you have to take that out, but you don't. All we got to do, and I think you could see I was doing that, was swing this out of the way. We want to get this axle stub out of the rotor. When you get to this point, you're about done. That ball joint is the hardest thing, but if you use the right tool, it won't be a problem. Use a big sledgehammer too to pound on it with. Okay, I've got the ball joint separated. Now, what I've done here, I've tied this axle shaft up, because you don't want this end dangling down. You can damage your differential bearings in your transaxle. So I'm going to try and pull this away out of the okay, cut. Okay, I'm going to try on the boot there. I'm going to pry there backwards and pull this out. There you go. Swing it away. I didn't have to disconnect the tie rod. And so there we go. We've got it supported right there with a rope. Good stuff. Okay, so you should drain your transmission fluid first. I'm going to try and just catch it as it comes out, but get something to pry with. And in between the transaxle and the shaft, you should be able to, there it's moving. And then it's starting to come out.
Whoa.
Transmission fluid. There. And it comes out. There's the shaft coming out right there. And I've got the other end tied. You don't want it to hang this end down when you're pulling it out because you can damage the differential bearings in there. So, and then you just got to work it free from the car. I'm catching the transmission fluid right there. So, okay. Okay, and I worked it out on the edge of this fork. And there it comes out. And that's it. Okay. Get a picture of both ends. Okay, I'm going to put the replacement shaft back in. This is a used one, but it's good. And you need to support it. I've got it sitting here on this radius rod, and then also on the inside there on the exhaust pipe. So you never want to leave an end unsupported. And then once I get it in, I've got to get the end through this fork here. Okay, I've got the transmission end of this half shaft back in. The problem is it needs to come through this fork here, and this radius arm here is holding it. So there's two 17mm bolts right there, and I'm going to take it off so I can move it out of the way so I can drop the shaft down and slide it up through that fork there. And there's my, I'm going to put a pipe on this ratchet here. Okay, I've got this radius arm off and underneath the half shaft now, and I've got this moved over here. This is hard. I've got to get it through here. This rubber boot's in the way, but I think you're going to have to line it up like this and then work this back under that fork. Okay, I got it in through the fork. I had to use a screwdriver like here to kind of pry that rubber around, but I've got it back in. Now I got to get this on top of the lower control arm, and it should be almost ready to put back together. The lower ball joint, you can see it there, new cotter pin. It's a new ball joint there. So I'll put the brake line holder back on there too. It's ready to put the tire back on. So in closing, I just want to say, if they tell you that you can tap these tie rods or ball joints out with a hammer or hit it where it goes through, it's not going to work for you. It's only going to work for them. So you're going to need the right tools, the tie rod and ball joint separators like I showed you earlier, and let's see, a 17mm socket and a 10mm socket, and that's about all the tools you need.